This sea snail can kill a man. A priceless pearl can be produced by this type of oyster. Believe it or not, this oddly shaped shell also is an oyster. This is a chambered nautilus. It can dive at will like a submarine. And this is the largest type of shell in the world, the giant clam. The study of seashells is the special field of one of these men. What is your name, please?
My name is R. Tucker Abbott.
My name is R. Tucker Abbott.
My name is R. Tucker Abbott.
Only one of these men is the real R. Tucker Abbott. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, and Kitty Carlisle on To Tell the Truth. And here sitting in for vacationing Bud Collier is our host, Robert Q. Lewis.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome to The Tell the Truth. Thank you. I want to say hello to you, panel. Welcome. Good to see you all. It's nice to be on this side for a change.
How does it feel?
It feels, I don't know. I'll let you know after the show. Meanwhile, Bud is on vacation for a couple of weeks, and I've been asked to take over for him, and I'm delighted. To Tell the Truth tonight is brought to you by Winston Filter Cigarettes. You all set to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, then. Will you open your envelope? Follow along, please, as I read. I, R. Tucker Abbott, am a conchologist, an authority on seashells. I am curator of mollusks for a large museum of natural science. While almost everybody who has spent time at the beach has done some shell collecting, I have made some 20 expeditions to 5 continents in search of rare and unusual specimens. In addition to many scientific articles, I've written several of the books most popular with amateur collectors. The collection for which I am responsible contains over 10 million seashells. Signed, R. Tucker Abbott. Panel, here are 3 gentlemen. They all claim to be R. Tucker Abbott, the conchologist. Let's start this questioning with Peggy Cass. Peg?
Thank you, Bud. Number 2, is a squid a mollusk?
Yes.
Number 3, how many short legs does a squid have?
8.
And number 1, how many long legs does a squid have?
Well, a squid has an equal number of legs. They're not necessarily long or short.
Number 2, what is the difference between a bay scallop and a sea scallop?
Well, they're the same species, but of course, as you explained, one is in the bay, and the sea... it's rather obvious.
Number 3, where is Sanibel?
That's near Fort Myers in Florida.
Number 1, can a sea urchin eat a conch?
No, I don't think so. It's
Number 2,
difficult.
can a conch eat a sea urchin?
We may never find out. Let's get to Orson. Orson?
We'll never know. Yes, I know something about shells. I've often gone looking for ashtrays in their natural state. Number 1, in order to be a curator of mollusks, must one be a conchologist?
A conchologist, I think you mean.
Conchologist,
yes. You're...
I'm speaking out of ignorance.
Well, most people say conch, but the word is conch.
Conch. But was Miss Cass correct when she said, can a nasty thing eat a conch?
Well, a conch is a pretty big animal compared to a sea urchin, so
see.
it isn't going to work that way.
Number 3, what creates the noise of the sea when you hold a shell up to your ear?
Vibrations, sound waves, I think you might get...
Thank you, Orson. Let's go to Kitty now.
And number 1, is an octopus a mollusk?
No, well, it's in the mollusk family. It's a encephalopod, actually.
Thank you. Number 2, what does angel's wings look like?
Well, this is the shape of the shell, and it has two, well, they look just like wings. They stick out of the side of the shell.
Thank you. Number 3, how long does it take a coral? Is a coral a fish?
No,
What
it's
is
an
it?
animal.
It's an animal. How long does it take to make a pretty thing, a coral?
They grow, definitely. They're small animals. They say they may grow for hundreds of years, the Great Barrier Reef.
Thank you. Number one, is there something called an olive?
Yes,
There's
well,
something else we may never know. The bell has
that's
rung.
a
Let's go
type
to...
of mollusk.
I'm
Again,
sorry, the bell has rung, number one. Please, I've got to be difficult. Let's go now to Tom Poston. Tom?
I thought he was going pretty good there.
I thought so, too, but...
Number three, where do those poisonous shells live?
Most of them in the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. There are no venomous shells here in the United States.
Thank you. What do they use their venom for, may I ask?
Usually to harpoon small fish and draw them inside their proboscis.
Thank you. Number two, what is the shell gasoline symbol shell? What kind of a shell is that?
Well, that's the scallop. And that's a unique shell because it can swim. It's one of the few varieties that can swim.
Is that so?
Time is up. And now comes the time to vote, panel. And without any consultation, would you be good enough to mark your ballots and select either number 1, number 2, or number 3? And there you go. Boy, that was fast, Kitty. Are you all set, Orson? Peggy?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Tom, are you debating?
Yeah, no, I'm
My God,
already.
that was fast tonight. All right, our team of challengers will get $250 for each incorrect vote. Tom, how did you vote?
I voted for number 3. I didn't find any erroneous answers from my limited knowledge of seashells, but I did know that the poisonous shells were found in the Indian Ocean, so I voted for number 3.
Very well. Peggy?
Well, I voted for number 3 as well because a squid has 8 short legs and 2 long ones, and also Sanibel is near Fort Myer.
It is? All right.
Yeah,
All right,
the
sir.
shell place.
That's 2 diverse pieces of information, I say. Well, I voted for number 1 because he knew about an encephalopod, and because I said I never knew a conchologist that could stop talking even though the bell would ring.
All right. Let's see what Kitty has to say.
Well, I voted for number 2 because last week we had a gentleman on who had followed the voyage of the Odyssey, and he had a beard, and we didn't vote for him because he had the beard. He looked as though he might have been the fella. So this time I voted for the gentleman with the beard.
I hope you followed all that. All right, there are the votes. There are the votes. Let's see now which of these 3 gentlemen is the real conchologist. Will the real Dr. R. Tucker Abbott please stand up?
Jesus, cold in my...
Panel, may I tell you, I'm delighted I'm not with you tonight. I honestly, I agree with Orson. I thought it was number 1. Isn't that awful? Well, just for the record, Dr. Abbott is curator of mollusks at the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia. And he has requested, incidentally, that his winnings be donated to their program of oceanographic research. Of course, we'll be glad to do that, Doctor. Number 1, would you tell us now who you really are?
My name is Henry T. Rockwell, and I'm president of Jones, Brakely, and Rockwell.
Now then, number 2, tell us about you.
Well, my name is Courtney Hudson, and I'm a professional photographer's model.
Well, there you are. We've had 2 incorrect votes, gentlemen, which means a total of $500 from Winston. And incidentally, on your way out, I'm delighted to tell you there's a carton of Winstons for each of you. Thank you so much, and good night. All right, panel, relax now for a moment or 2, and let's all look at this brief film. And let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Lela Hadley. My name is Lela Hadley. My name is Lela Hadley.
Panel, please listen as I read. I, Lela Hadley, am the author of a rather unusual guide to travel in Europe. In it, I try to persuade parents that it is not only more fun to take the children abroad with them, but also that it can be cheaper than leaving them at home. I list information on babysitters, day camps, 24-hour drugstores, and diaper services. For special accommodations, I recommend staying in castles. I also discuss those sightseeing attractions which seem to have a special appeal to American kids. In England, for example, there's the canal trip through London. In Paris, the gingerbread fair. Copenhagen has its Tivoli Gardens. And in Naples, it's the funicular ride up Mount Vesuvius. I wrote my guide from personal experience. I have taken my own children to Europe 4 times. Signed, Lela Hadley. Panel, here are 3 lovely ladies. They all claim to be Lela Hadley, an expert on traveling with children. Let's start the cross-examination with you, Kitty. Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you. Number 2, how long does the canal trip through London take?
It takes about 5 hours.
And where does it go from?
Well, it goes through Regent's Park and underground.
Thank you. Number 3, how many children did you have when you went abroad?
2.
How old were they?
I went so often. Well, they began at 1.5 and 3.5.
I see. Number 1, what do you think is the country that has the best sort of babysitting care for children?
Well, I think Switzerland probably has
the best.
most facilities.
Thank you very much. Number 3, where is the gingerbread fair in Paris?
It's just outside Paris.
Where?
It's about 20 minutes in the Parc des Fleurs.
The bell has rung. Let us now turn to Mr. Poston. Thomas?
I think I'd love to see those things myself. I've traveled in those... I haven't... number 2, how do you pronounce the capital of Denmark? I'm afraid to pronounce
Copenhagen.
That's what Robert Q told me some weeks ago. But number 3, how do you spell it in Denmark?
K with a slash through the O, Benhavn, I believe, if I remember.
And
right.
number 1, how's that pronounced over there?
Oh, Copenhagen.
Copenhagen still?
Copenhagen, yes.
See, that shows how dumb I am. Number 2, when you started, you said something about those canals going through Regent's Park, did you?
Yes.
And then what did you start to say?
I'm afraid we'll never know, Tom. I don't know why they do that to you folks. All right, Peggy.
Number 2, if you took your children to Odense in Denmark, what would you show them there?
Well, I would show them Hans Christian Andersen.
Number 3, if you were to take your children to a maze close to London, where would you be taking them?
Oh, heavens, I can't quite remember.
Number 1, do you know?
Well, I think there's one at Hampton Court.
Number 2, where is the statue of Peter Pan in London?
Oh, dear. I don't know.
Number 1, do you know where the statue of Peter Pan is?
It's in one of the parks.
Time is up again. There's some malicious man at that bell. Orson, you go ahead.
Yes, number 2, who is Irving Weinspar? Don't know, huh?
I don't know.
That's 1 down. Number 3, if you had trouble with your kids and needed to buy Band-Aids or something, what's the famous drugstore on the Champs-Élysées in Paris? What's
Le
it called?
Drugstore,
Le
133
Drugstore.
Avenue des Champs-Élysées.
Merci bien. Number 1, there is a boat trip, an all-day boat trip that goes up the Thames and leaves from London. Do you know where it leaves from?
Wait a second. No, I don't exactly know where it goes.
Beautifully done. Number 2.
That's it, Orson. Time is up. No consultation again. Please indicate on your ballots. Select for us either number 1, number 2, or number 3. And incidentally, Tom, you said you wanted to make all those side trips. I will try to personally arrange for Irving Weinspar to take you over there.
That's Irving Weinspar. How do you like the nerve of that guy?
No. Are the votes all cast, panel?
Yep.
Everybody set? All right, let's find out. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I wanted to vote for number 2, but I couldn't. The Peter Pan kind of fooled me, and then number 1 didn't. Well, at some point or other, our 3 guides all failed us slightly, so it was a guess for me. I voted for number 1.
Peggy?
I voted for number 3 because Peter Pan's in Kensington Gardens, and so I voted for number 3, even though she wasn't 100% sure about Hampton Court. It's farther out of town, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. Orson?
Well, number 3 sounds well-traveled, so she would have known a lot of those things anyway. I voted for number 2, pretty much. Sorry, Frank.
Kitty?
I voted for number 2. I thought it was much more obscure, Peter Pan, than Hampton Court. And if you didn't know Hampton Court, maybe you weren't the right one. So I voted for number 2.
Well, all right, there you go. Let's see now, huh? Which of these 3 ladies is the real expert on traveling with children? Will the real Lela Hadley please stand up? Very good. Incidentally, the other 2 ladies were very well versed, weren't they? Excellent.
Marvelous.
Very well done.
Where is Peter Pan's statue?
I haven't the vaguest idea.
Kensington Gardens.
It is in Kensington Gardens. Let me say this about Miss Hadley, Mrs. Hadley, may I say. Her book entitled How to Travel with Children in Europe, and that sounds like a brilliant idea, has been published in 4 volumes by Walker and Company. Now then, number 2, would you be good enough to tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Maria Murdoch, and I work for the jewelers Van Cleef and Arpels.
Number 3, tell us about you now.
My name is Simone Swan, and I'm Girl Friday to cartoonist Al Cap.
Excellent. Well, as you can see, panel, there have been 3 incorrect votes, which means a total, ladies, of $750 from Winston. On your way out, incidentally, we have a carton of Winstons for each of you. Thank you so very much, and good night. We'll put our panel back to work in just a moment. Meantime, here is something you will enjoy. Now let's meet our 3rd team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Walter Scheibel.
My name is Walter Scheibel.
My name is Walter Scheibel.
Panel, would you please listen while I read? I, Walter Scheibel, am a barker, not a circus barker, a dog barker. I imitate dog sounds for motion pictures, television, also for radio and television commercials. The repertoire of my dog noises includes howls and yelps, whimpers, snuffles, and slurps. In all, I bark more than 50 different ways. My greatest triumph occurred in the Hollywood Bowl, when I was solo barker with a Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. Signed, Walter Scheibel. All right, panel, here are 3 gentlemen. They all claim to be Walter Scheibel, soloist with the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. And we'll start this round with a dear friend of Irving Weinspar's. As a matter of fact, quite seriously, a young man who is opening his own school this fall, the first Summerhill-type school in New York, Orson Bean.
Thank you. Mr. Scheibel, is it? Number 3, when you appeared with the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra, what did they play, The Whistler and His Dog, or why did they have you there?
Well, they played the suite, the Mississippi, the Hudson River suite.
And that has dog barks in
and
it?
it had involved Rip and Winkle. And...
I see. Well, number 2, is Lassie a girl or a boy?
That's a boy.
Lassie's a boy, I see. The real Lassie, huh? Number 1, that wouldn't matter about the tenor of the bark, though, right? If you were hired to dub in. Number 1, have you ever been called in to make the soundtrack noise for a seal? Like
Never.
Sparky? Never. Just dogs, huh?
Thank you, Orson. Kitty?
Number 1, when did you discover this talent?
When I was a boy, when dogs barked at me, I would bark back.
Number 2, who composed the Mississippi Suite?
I wouldn't know.
Number 3?
Well, Ferdy Grote. Oh, the Mississippi. Yeah, Ferdy Grote.
Thank you. Number 1, who was conducting when you were the soloist?
Castellanets.
Thank you. Number 2, where is the bowl in Hollywood?
It's on Highland Avenue in
Thank
Hollywood.
You. Number 3, when did you learn that you had this extraordinary talent?
Well, when I was a boy, I was fooling around with the kids, and I happened to make some funny noises, and I picked it up from there. And
Thank you. Number 1, which is more difficult, a bark or a slurp?
Kitty, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tom Poston.
I'd like to ask, number 1, do you know the tune to The Whistler and His Dog?
No.
Well, tell
I
me,
don't.
do you know the bark? I mean, is that part of your repertoire?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. I must advise you that on this program there is a rule against foreign languages. So I cannot ask
All right, now, wait a minute.
bark for you.
How about getting him? I'd like to ask number 2 if you'll please bark like a King Charles Spaniel. That's English.
Well, I think it's only, I'm sorry, I won't take your time, but we're not allowed to ask them to bark. That wouldn't be fair. Okay?
Oh, it would be fair to us.
I know. Who wants to be fair to you? Go on.
Yeah. Number 3, where do you use your talents most?
Well, I use it in shows, and I do it on the side, and then they take it and put it into movies and television scenes. I never know exactly where it's going to be.
All right. Peggy.
Number 2, what unions do you belong to?
Belong to the AFTRA.
Number 3, have you ever been a wolf?
Yes. I do usually only dogs, but I have done wolves, yes.
Number 1, have you ever been a famous dog?
Never.
No. Infamous dogs only. Number 2, what is a slurp? My dog, I have 3 dogs that make lots of noises, but I've never heard a slurp yet.
Well, when they're eating, and if they're eating sloppy, that's called a slurp.
Oh, I see.
Time is up. Time is up. Please mark your ballots, will you, for either number 1, number 2, or number 3. We'll find out about a slurp perhaps a little bit later on. Ballots all marked. Very good. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I think I made a mistake. I voted for number 1. I think number 1 by this time should have been the voice of a famous dog. And he said he wasn't,
Peggy?
so I'm wrong.
You know, I voted for number 2. Number 1 looks as though he really has a voice going for him and everything. But number 2 knew where the Hollywood Bowl was, so I voted for him for that.
All right. Orson.
Number 1 looks like he could play all dogs from Pekingeses up to Great Danes.
Giddy.
Well, I voted for number 3. Number 1 knew about Castellanos, number 2 knew about the bow, but number 3 knew who wrote the Mississippi Suite, and I'm always on the side of the authors.
All right, there are the votes. This is the part I like best of all. Let's find out now which of these 3 gentlemen is the real soloist with the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. Will the real Walter Scheibel please stand up? Walter, you will be seated again. Would you give us a brief demonstration? I know they'd love to hear that. Very good. Oh, one more thing. And very briefly, on behalf of Peggy Cass, one brief slurp. That's brief enough. You just don't have sloppy dogs, that's all, Peggy. Now let's find out. Number 1. Will you be good enough to tell us your name and what you do?
My name is Ted Saucier. I'm the author of a best-selling cocktail book, Bottoms Up.
Very good. Number 3, will you tell us your name and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Ken Smith. I am director of the Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York.
Gentlemen, I've enjoyed this very much. Thank you. Incidentally, there have been, let me see, oh boy, 3 incorrect votes again, gentlemen. That means a total of $750 from Winston. And, of course, on your way out, a carton of Winstons for each of you. Thanks so much, and... Peggy Cass has someone who's taken umbrage to the last spot. What's his name, Peggy?
This is a cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and he didn't like the sound of that man, and he came running out on the stage.
What's his name?
His name is Rufus the Goofus.
How old is Rufus?
Rufus is 7 months old. He's here because we're going to dog school tonight.
Very good. He's beautiful, Peggy. He is just beautiful. Before we say goodnight, a reminder, the best way for all America to meet the endless challenge of our times is for all of us to become better Americans. For information, simply write to Challenge, Box 1776, New York, 17, New York. Panel, good night, and thank you all. Don't forget to join us at the same time next week. I'll see you, of course, tomorrow afternoon on our daytime show. Until then, Robert Q. saying goodnight for Winston Cigarettes and reminding you, as Bud Collyer always does, to tell the truth.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Woodson, Bill Codman production. Tell the Truth has been brought to you by Winston Filter Cigarettes. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. This is Johnny Olson speaking. For To Tell the Truth, this program was recorded.